Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to the last session of the day. We appreciate it very much. I'm Tom Merritt, host of Daily Tech News Show. I'll be moderating our panel on fan communities and the future of engagement. I'm sorry to note that Jeff Flanagan got sick and will not be joining us, so it'll just be the three of us and you, because we're talking about engagement. So hopefully you'll have some good questions to throw at us towards the end of the session. I got my own experience with fan engagement at ZDTV back in 1999. Is anybody remember ZDTV, Tech TV? Okay, a couple of folks out here. We were putting people's faces on our network, on our cable television network at the time, through what we called the NetCam network. We had a live chat room that we streamed. We had message boards, and that was very instructive to me in what makes a good audience, what is powerful with an audience, and what allows a fan community to build. I think now we live in a world where fandoms are what powers everything, from politics to music to cinema. Developing a fandom around something is essential, if not one of the top priorities, for successful brands and successful programming. So we're going to talk about that with a couple of experts in fan communities and fan engagement here, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Brandon, start with you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for coming. I know it's the end of the day, on the very last day of the exciting convention that we've had here. My name is Brandon Stewart. I am the owner and CEO of Brandon Studios. We basically have built a footprint of 120 million users across 63 channels. We also have a studio in Burbank, California, which I keep telling these guys they have to come visit me at. But we've got a couple of sound stages, and we curate content and own our own content and deliver it direct to consumer. Kyle, your turn.
Thanks, Brendan, and thank you everyone for coming to this panel again. Amazing. And I am Kyle Espinosa. I'm the VP of Global Channels Programming and Analytics for Fremantle, where we run about 20 plus fast channels across 20 plus endpoints domestically and a dozen more outside of the US for a total of about 300 endpoints. And within there, my remit is to hold our audiences engaged through the vast IP that we have through Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, Supermarket Sweep, America's Got Talent, and bridging generation after generation into this fandom and cultivating lifelong viewers.
So we're going to hit on several different themes throughout this. We're going to talk about discovery, like how you get your fans to discover you, how you discover your fans. We're going to talk about engagement, of course. We're going to talk about diversity of perspectives, both from your content and within your fandoms. But let's start with discovery, getting people to find your content, getting new fans. Even when you have an established brand, like you're talking about, how do you get not just people to view your content, but get people to become fans of your content?
Well, I think it's a two-part question. So number one, it's do you have a budget, and how big is the budget? Number one, right? Like, obviously it's easy to spend marketing dollars, and it's where do you spend those? That's one strategy. The other one is if you don't have a budget, right? And that's what we do really well is finding a way to connect audiences to content without them maybe knowing that it's there, utilizing social media as our conduit, and driving kind of fan engagement through interactivity. So, for us, and Kyle, I don't know if you share the same sentiment, but we can get people very excited about our content just on social media alone. And I think that that's really important. I think that that's where the world is going. We were talking before we had kind of began the panel about a little bit about AI. Does anybody in here use AI or started using AI? It's okay, this is a safe space. But it's a dangerous space right now we're in, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of guardrails. We're kind of in the wild, wild west. We're learning, what's good, what's bad, what maybe is legal today, maybe illegal tomorrow, because, again, it's the wild, wild west. And so for us, it's all about, maximizing every single effort to get our content seen. And yeah, I think that, building a fandom is really important because for us, one of our channels is a premium channel at $5.99 a month. And to get people to understand what we quantify as brand and TV to pay $5.99 a month, you have to deliver it direct to their eyeballs. And you have to get in their face more than 3 times so that they actually understand that this is something that's important to them. It's called breaking the algorithm, and it's really critical. once you are in front of people and you start, sharing the same message over and over again, it starts to become something that they feel like that they can be involved in. They start to comment, we start to scrape those comments and put those comments actually in the type of content that we're making. So it almost feels like they're a part of kind of the gamified kind of creation of what we're doing. But that's why I think it would be critical to us.
Yeah, to piggyback off Brandon's answer, we are fortunate enough that we have some scale that we can leverage platform experts to meet viewers where they are. So whether that's on social media, on broadcast, where we can have some integrations with the productions and the networks, or on connected TV, on advertising, anything that's personalized, anything that has a screen, we can basically reach them where they are and try to engage them the way they consume media. We're not trying to force everyone to just tune in onto Fast because that's our main goal, but no, it's engaging them with the IP because that's trans-screen, it goes through live screen integrations, in-person events, and everything in between.
Tell me a little more about taking the fans and putting them in the content that you talked about. Like, what are some of the avenues you look at for that?
That's a great question. So on one of our streaming apps, we actually have created a kind of a social media vertical where they can take polls and they can basically tell us what they want to see week after week. For the I would say the efficiency and how quickly we move on our programming, Monday we could have an idea, by Friday we could put it on our streaming app. And so not only are we scraping Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, for everything that they're saying, the thousands and thousands of comments we're getting daily, we're putting that through our own algorithm, and we're ultimately using AI, a machine learning technique, to have it tell us exactly what the people are wanting to see. So we'll get 10 topics, we'll understand that from those 10 topics we need to pick a couple of them, whether it be storyline or characters and traits, and then we'll drive that directly into the story week after week.
Give me an example of something like that.
Okay, so we do a lot of reality TV programming, so we curated a show around a woman named Abby Lee Miller from Dance Moms. Did anybody watch Dance Moms from back in the day? Me too. And now I work with her, which is so exciting. So we created a concept called Madhouse, which brought some of her former stars from Dance Moms and put them back in the house with her now that they're fully grown, the parents aren't involved, and now she's trying to teach them how to book jobs, not just win plastic trophies. So for example, we'll have the audience at home kind of vote week after week on who they want to see, and that kind of motivates Abby week after week, who she's pushing out of the house and who she's keeping there. That's a very simplistic kind of competitive element, but you take the Little Women franchise, we just kind of did a bit of a revival on Little Women. Did anybody watch Little Women back in the day on Lifetime? We love our Lifetime family. So with Little Women, it's also critical because you're looking at various franchises and you have to really kind of pick an all-star cast when you're going to go for a revival and what we're calling Little Hollywood. And so we listen to what the audience wants to see as far as characters, as far as development on storyline, et cetera, where even their cast trip should be. We're going to Napa Valley, by the way, the audience decided that. And so we really allow them to kind of be involved in kind of a gamified way so that they feel like that they're helping us build the story.
Right. In a way that still allows you to have artistic intent. You know, you're planning it, but providing opportunity.
Well, it's reality TV time. Calm down. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. Yeah, I guess.
Kyle, what about Fremantle?
So we're not cutting edge like you in regards to being able to take commentary from today and then apply it to the next week's episode. We're working a lot with legacy and catalog content where episode of Price is Right might have aired 50 years ago. How do we modernize that for a viewer that's never seen Bob Barker walk down the stage and bring people down to spin the wheel? So just as much as technology has enabled viewers to meet and consume content where they are, it's also allowed us to let them engage content the way they want it to be, whether it's passive viewing where it's just pop-up trivia that helps augment their experiences, or active engagement with Twitch and Gaggle integrations where we work with content creators like Ollie Robinson to walk them through an episode and do a live stream reaction. So it just runs the gamut, and we have to be really creative with whether your content's new, up to date, or something half a decade old.
Which also helps with drop-off rate, I feel like, too, because we do that too, where you put a poll 30 minutes into the episode, or maybe it's like an Easter egg kind of a thing that's going on?
Yeah, one of the things I've learned over the years too is that engagement sometimes is just seeing that engagement happens, right? Like just seeing that someone else's input was part of that is enough to make someone feel like, oh, they're listening to us. Right?
Yeah, I love that because that really is the crux of community that the superfans will own, right? And we're just tapping into that, just hearing their voice and allowing them to understand that their viewpoint matters in this grand ocean of entertainment, and they feel really valued when they get heard.
And you mentioned preventing drop-off, and that is something I want to touch on too, is churn. You know, people are going to leave fandoms for various reasons. How do you manage that?
It's a big question. So on a lot of our freemium channels, we're always watching when they drop off, why they drop off. You know, it's most of the time it has nothing to do with the type of direction you went with the content. Most of the time it has everything to do with the style of an edit, or even sometimes the environment. You know, we can put talent in a variety of different types of programming on one channel, and sometimes they'll drop off at a 15-minute mark just because that is their viewing trend, and then sometimes they'll watch it all the way through because, oh my gosh, it's Halloween and it was a horror episode. So that's a big loaded question, and I feel like it's something that we're still solving. I don't know if you guys have kind of like, you know, really gotten to the gambit of what it means, but you know, for us, we're constantly trying to measure what is going to bring people all the way through the actual episode, or all the way through the program, all the way through the content. And it's challenging. I mean, I don't think I have like a straight answer, you know, because it's right. And every week it's about, you know, deciding, you know, what type of programming you're taking out, because for us, we're producing anywhere from 25 to 30 episodes a week across all of our programming. And so we're managing a lot, and you know, while doing that, you also understand that it's like you're not gonna have a hit every single week, but consistency is the key there. So understanding that the audience still has to, you know, intake and process content every single week. Some weeks are gonna be up, some weeks are gonna be down. I don't know if you kind of.
Yeah, we see churn as the viewer finding nothing new, or they're bored and they tune out, right? So that's where a lot of technology comes into play to rewrap something old fresh, whether that's using technology to bring catalog that hasn't been seen in 40 years, or rebooting a completely new version of that IP. We've now rebooted Baywatch recently with Fox, and that's coming out next year, and that's IP that's been beloved for 30-ish years. And how do we get new audiences there, and just trying to find new versions of that IP that people love. There was a great point yesterday in one of the panels about not straying too far away from what made that IP beloved for that core audience, and then trying to find what works within that main vein for the new generation or for the new audiences.
How do you find that out? Like, where do you look?
Oh, that's where the data comes into play. We can do qualitative, we've done quantitative, and just doing a lot of trial and error and seeing what other players are doing out there that may have worked, might not work, or could have worked if we did something different. So there's so much transparency out there in the marketplace, and everyone can see what shows other people are making, and then trying to leverage like, oh, this one could have been better if we did this, or we could change that if we implemented ABC. A lot of trial and error.
And to add to, that's why I think it's so important to be on social media and to like listen to what people are saying, because sometimes ratings won't come in, especially on like broadcast television, for 30 plus days before they're actually, you know, maximizing what is the true rating on that show. You take The Housewives, for example, because that's kind of our space. You know, some of the biggest Housewives franchises and the biggest Housewives episodes are marking 30-day like maximums, bigger than they ever have when they were on Bravo, now utilizing Peacock, for example. So I think it's really important to also follow your instinct when you're creating content, and the type of content you're creating around like Baywatch, bringing such a legacy show back, knowing that you have to still, you know, garner the same audience and stay true to them, but also where's the fresh take? Where are you going next? And really like, you know, getting them intrigued again and getting them fresh. And
do you monitor all social media platforms, or the ones that your audience particularly favors?
We monitor them all, even down to Reddit. We're like on Reddit constantly. Our team was actually joking because we had like a Reddit executive that reached out and was like, hey, we're noticing a lot of people are talking about your stuff. Can we have a meeting? We're like, sure. We didn't know there was Reddit executives. I thought that was just like, you know, it's like the people's people or something. But yeah, we are constantly monitoring it.
Yeah, and how far do you range? Is it Tumblr? Is it Mastodon? Is it, you know?
No, we're not on Tumblr. I would say our core maybe 5 would be like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, still maybe X, and Instagram and Threads as well. But those are probably our core groups. YouTube, of course, as well. That's a little bit more longer.
Which is, it's always a debate whether that's a social network or a platform or both, right?
Right, yeah, and we create content, actually, we're leaning into the vertical space too. I don't know if you guys have seen the brand, which I'm obsessed with, by the way, called Real Shorts. That, like, you know, it's a little cheesy, but you know, I might pay $1.99 to watch that whole show all the way through because it's addictive. And I think that's like the key to the industry right now is how can you have that sticky effect to get people to go all the way through the programming. And the drop-off thing is exactly what we're talking about. So we've started playing with some vertical things there too, where it doesn't go direct to our app, to our paywall, but it goes across these other vertical channels like a TikTok or an Instagram and things. So yeah.
What about,
Yeah, piggybacking off that, I think sometimes just putting the IP or the content in a new platform exposes that content to a new audience. For example, like the Summer of Suits, right, on Netflix. That show, Suits, it hasn't aired in like half a decade, and then got a resurgence recently because it just went on Netflix. Nothing new happened. And in the same instance for us, where we're putting content on new platforms, or we're working with content creators to bring their YouTube-specific IP or library over to a connected TV lean-back experience. And a lot of the pitch has been, or trying to undo is it's not carrying over your audience, you're finding a new audience.
Conversion.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about engaging. Once you get that audience, how do you keep them engaged? What are some of your time-tested principles?
From a content programming perspective, that's like where speaking to the fandom on the content, whether it's a calendar or a stunting event that speaks to the IP. For example, again, like Baywatch, like summers are really great for exposing all the beach saves, right? Or during February when it's really cold, let's warm up with Baywatch. So like just leaning into the thematics of that IP to play into a year-round calendar that allows them to come back, or gives them a reason to come back. Because if they're seeing the same episode, which again, there's only like 200 episodes of Baywatch, and they're rotating through that 24/7, like 468 times, they've already seen through it within a month. So just finding creative ways to keep them engaged and coming back. We're not asking them to watch 24/7 Baywatch. Maybe 30 minutes every day, right? That builds up a habit.
Yeah. I would, again, to lean back into it, I would say just gamifying the content. I think everybody wants to feel seen in today's time, and I think making them feel like they are a part of the story-making process, I think, is the key in. It gets a little more challenging if you're doing a larger scale, like broadcast deal. You got to figure out how are you going to do that with whether it's pre-taped or if it's week after week. Like, how are you going to bring them in a large scale way? For us, it's a little bit easier because we're a little probably smaller and a little bit more flexible in that way. But it's all about making them feel engaged, making them feel involved. If they're the ones telling you that they want to see Tom every single week, then goddamn it, Tom, you're going to be in it every single week, And I think it's that easy. You just have to deliver what they want to see.
Yeah. What about direct outreach? Do either of you do anything where you have like fan meetings, fan meetups, calls?
Yeah, there's a lot of in-person or on-the-ground integrations that we've done for some of our key IP. So we did an integration with the Burbank Airport for like National Game Show Month to create a holiday events, all of the catalog game shows that we have in our library. And then we also did a National Game Show Day that we actually put on the calendar so that we can officially have the fans own this day for them. There's also Price is Right on the ground that travels across the country where viewers across America can come on down and spin the wheel and not just go to Burbank for the studios. So bringing the events closer to them has always been like a time-tested technique. Obviously, that's something Brandon mentioned, like what is the budget, right? Because what is the ROI on it? And that's something that everyone has to like come to terms with to understand. Is it a viewer engagement play? Is it an advertising play? And the business of the whole comes into play here.
Yeah, and budget is everything. And I feel like I'm kind of like the champion for the little people because we don't always have like big budgets. And so we're constantly leaning on live streams. If you ask my team, we are going live, whether it's us or a talent from one of our shows, every single day. Like every single day. We took another very famous brand called DD Pharrell. They're known as the Dancing Dolls with Diana Williams. And she is online every day talking about the show, engaging with the fans. What do you guys want to see? Who's your favorite? What did you think of the episode last week? And you know, it's work, but it's really easy to just be present with your audience. I don't know, are you guys big fans of the streaming world? Like not obviously this version of streaming, but the Kai Cenat stuff and all the 24-hour streams and things like that. You guys look like you have no idea what I'm talking about. Great. But anyway, so there's this very interesting space that's kind of opening up, so you guys know that these kind of, and most of them are younger, I would say, but they're coming out of like the YouTube space, the TikTok space, and they're now doing these 24-hour streams. They've got these people called clippers that are clipping out these ultimately clips, right? And these moments from their live stream, and it's just silly and it's fun, and they're literally going on camera for 24 hours. And so we do a version of that, you know, we put our talent out there to be seen and to be talked about and to engage with our audience just, you know, constantly. So
When you do those, especially because people aren't familiar with that, what kind of stuff do they do? Is it talking to the chat room? Is it stunts? Is it a mix?
All the above, like Q&As type stuff. Sometimes we'll do collaborative live streams where many of the talent will get on there together. Sometimes we'll actually set it up where like media can get involved and they're like talking about a hot topic from that weekend. Of course, a lot of our programming, I know Fremantle too, but a lot of our programming is very like docu-follow. Sometimes it's a little gritty. So there's like some drama and gossip happening that they have to talk about that week. And so it's all about figuring out what is gonna make people click. It's like, what is going to get people to come back the next week and the next week and the next week? And we utilize that with live streams. By the way, if you guys are not on TikTok Shop, and you guys own a business, get your ass on, you don't have to cuss?
No, you're...
Oh, okay, great. Too late. But get on TikTok Shop. It is such a big opportunity to make money, to engage with fans. And right now, TikTok's algorithm is promoting live streams for TikTok Shop. So get on there so that you guys can be seen, you guys can push your product, talk about the content you guys want to kind of talk about and stuff too, but TikTok is where it is at.
Yeah, The Economist podcast just did an episode about the TikTok Shop live streams, how successful they were in China, and how they are becoming very successful in the United States. Pop Mart, do we have any Labubu fans in the audience or relatives?
Guys, come on, no streaming, no Labubus.
But they're huge and they're taking off, so I can back you up on that as well. But let's talk about collaboration, because you mentioned that just now. How does that help with fan engagement, and how do you pursue those kinds of things?
Well, for us, it's about measuring captive audiences and really making sure that the collaboration makes sense. But it's also like messaging too, right? Sometimes we'll pluck somebody like a fan, for example, or Joe Blow from Minnesota, because he has the story that maybe a Diana Williams wants to kind of share. But most of the time, it's all about captive audiences. It's all about how can we help each other. Can I ask a question to the audience?
Yeah,
just because I want.
I mean, it's a future of engagement panel.
See,
we should engage the audience.
Hallelujah. Can anybody just tell me like a business that you guys work at? Anybody just throw it at, like your business or the company that you're working for?
It's not a trick question.
Not a trick question.
It's like an improv exercise. Just throw out a name.
Anybody?
Cineverse.
Okay. So at Cineverse, how do you guys engage with your audience?
I lied. It was a trick question.
That is a trick question.
Are you guys business to business or to consumer?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I'm in the side that's going to be a tougher answer for this. I'm the business to business side.
Okay. Okay. But that's important too, right? I think that there's a lot of, the reason why I say that is because I think that there's a lot of ways to drive conversation to benefit all of the above. And I think we have to stop being afraid to do that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, like conferences, for example, we all go to conferences and we sit in these chairs and we listen to people talk about how much we know and all these things, when for me, it's like, get your ass outside. Make the connection, move the relationship, move the needle. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity if you guys actually utilize what we have for fan engagements. which is social media, which is maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's elements of just listening to what people actually want to see. I don't know, you know, what you guys do and what you guys provide, services and things like that, but I would love to talk to you afterwards and hear kind of what your social media plan is and what your strategy is and where you guys have gone in that space, because I feel like we are underutilizing it still to this day, especially broadcast networks, especially streamers.
Well, because it's work.
Yes.
It's not easy. I think a lot of people expect, oh, well, I just turn on my social media and it happens. And you have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, what about you? What about collaboration? Because I saw you nodding when I brought it up.
Yeah, no, I think just speaking to the authenticity of the audience or the generation or the IP that you're speaking to, because I think you mentioned it earlier on where the moment you stray too far from what makes that brand or our culture beloved, it becomes inauthentic and fake, and then people turn off because they can smell fake from a mile away, right? So just making sure people that we work with on a social media content creator side has strong ties to the IP. I think that's really it. Authenticity is the crux of it.
Yeah, listening to the audience and knowing what's important to them. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the perspectives you bring in from your audience. We talked when we were preparing for this about the diversity of perspective. How do you take that into account, and how do you bring that into your content?
A lot of our game shows from the 50s onwards has a very predominant audience that kind of doesn't resonate with the diversity of the viewership that we have nowadays. So there's just a lot of insights of what not to do or what we can do moving forward better in new productions that we do take into that account.
How about you, Brandon?
Repeat the question. Let me hear the question.
We were talking about diversity of perspective and how you bring that into your content, and how do you manage that?
And do you mean in the sense of like the style of content or the way that we deliver it?
When you're engaging with your fans.
Okay. I think it's all different, right? I think I don't know how to answer that. Again, I think it's a layered thing. I think
Sure. Well, pick a layer, any layer.
Okay, let me pick a layer. I think for us, like, our secret is the riches are in the niches. That's something our team talks about all the time. I think it's really critical to lean into one layer at a time, right? And to really maximize that one layer. I use the Lady Gaga effect as one of them. She came in the industry, you know, very interesting, very unique. I think a lot of people rallied behind her, and slowly but surely we saw her evolve and her music evolve. We saw her become a little bit more commercial. She still stayed true to herself, but she really was focused when she entered the market. I think that's what creators, content creators, streamers, everybody needs to do when they're building communities of fans. If you don't stay super specific to the niche, sometimes you cast too wide of a net. And I don't think you I would say, collect enough fans that are going to rally behind you, that are going to pay the premium fee, that are going to continue to watch week after week. And I think it's really important to, focus on the niche first, and then grow from there. Does that answer it?
No, that's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, the riches are in the niches has come up. I don't know how many times you have heard it, but I've heard it multiple times throughout this. And I guess the trick is figuring out what your niche is.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said, we started in reality TV. Prior to that, I was actually on a show called American Idol, and for me, I initially was in music, and the music industry shifted completely with obviously AI, with social media. Now there's like really no A&Rs at all anymore. I think everyone's kind of doing it on their own. There's a new show on Netflix called Building the Band, which I'm obsessed with. If you guys haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's so great. But that is a perfect example of how these singers are getting out there and doing it on their own. They're becoming these influencers, and they have to, traffic up this music for themselves. And so, I utilized a lot of my experience there before I went to Awesomeness TV to really create a direct-to-consumer strategy. Because, Kyle and the team at Fremantle, they've had a lot of success on going to broadcasters and getting the green light on shows and, reviving legacy talent and things like that. For me, I wasn't getting that success. And so I had to figure out a new way. How can I create my own audience? How can I have them feed the beast that's our own beast, And that's why we started creating these YouTube channels, these TikTok channels, and really started putting the power back into the hands of the creators.
Yeah. Do you have riches in your niches?
Yeah, we focus on 3 specific genre pillars for us. So game shows, I've talked extensively about how, the strength of our game show catalog, scripted that they watch, and then we also have lifestyle. So you mentioned like some cooking with the TikTok shop, where we're working with Jamie Oliver. We rep his brand on the fast side, and we run his channels and socials, and work with advertisers and Amazon to sell his products and have cross collaborations and cross promotions. So we really focus on those three because those are our key strengths. And then we've tried with venturing outside of those genres, and it's just really difficult without spending the time to really build that audience and let them thrive with the IP that you have.
I was gonna say, but I feel like you guys really know game shows too, right? Like I think that's what you guys did really well.
Yeah.
But that's a niche, right? Game shows are kind of a niche. Yeah.
They're niches within niches sometimes.
Love it.
Let's talk about how much do y'all deal with managing your communities? In other words, you know, whenever a community gets big enough, there are bad actors, there's unexpected behaviors, the fans start to push for things. You know, we touched a little bit on it earlier, but do you find that is something that you run into, or is that more external because it's on social media somewhere?
I would say maybe a little bit of both. I would say, you know, again, in our situation, being a direct-to-consumer platform, you know, we have to deal with the user every single day. And I think, you know, as we know, just in the world we're living in today, people can be very fickle. And so if they don't get what they want, they're unsubscribing or they've got something to say or whatever. But I would always challenge, you know, our executive team and our creators to harness that and utilize that as more of a positive. It's like, you know, they're giving us a cheat sheet. You know, they're telling us what they want to see. Sometimes they're, you know, they're saying positive things too, but as we know in this world, the loudest people are oftentimes the negative. The most negative. And so, you know, you have to really harness what that means and put it back into the content in a positive way.
To reinterpret.
Absolutely.
Take the tone
That's
out of
the
it,
most
yeah.
perfect word, yes.
How about you, Kyle?
I think Brendan said it eloquently, that learning how to tune out the noise and like the bad actors and leveraging all the platform moderation tools, because, you know, we don't have a 30-person social media team that can look at every single platform. We're probably only have like 4, and one of them is dedicated to just a couple of brands, and they only work 8 hours a day, right? So like, what happens to the 16 hours? So we have to utilize the technology as much as we are dependent on it.
On the other side of this are your super positive but super loud fans. Do you run into those sometimes?
For sure. For sure. And also, you know, everybody makes mistakes, right? It's like sometimes we'll have a glitch on the app or something will happen where there was a black screen in the episode or something, you gotta re-upload it quick. By the way, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. Did anybody catch the coffee cup on that one episode? Yeah. So mistakes happen, right? And I think that's another thing when you're out in front of your fans pretty consistently, you can control that narrative. So it's about making the coffee cup on Game of Thrones like the meme that it became, right? And making it funny. And it's like, you know, people do make mistakes. So I think that that is the positive, is really making sure that you're one with the people. It's like, you know, you're not separated, you're not segregated from the actual people that are binging your content, paying your light bill, so to say, as they're, you know, paying their premium fee. So I think it's important to, again, be seen.
Yeah, I get physical mail from our viewers about how discontent they are with the programming, and I'm like, you don't know the entitlements, the rights. We don't have this, we don't have that. Like, there's just like so much nuance that people don't understand. From
Can you please read one of the mail? Like, here's it.
there's one where it's just like, hey, can you air these shows? And all of the shows listed were all Sony shows.
Oh, yeah.
So like, Wheel of Fortune.
But you're the game show
yeah,
people.
but we're the game show people. But like, yes and no, we don't have all of it. So, and they want more episodes redigitized from the archive, but we're not doing it at a fast enough pace. But there's some business realities we have to interact with, right? Because we can't just digitize everything and pay for it up front without seeing the return. And that's where the business side comes into play, that a lot of viewers and consumers aren't too privy of.
I like what you were saying, Brandon, too, about, you know, when you are in front of those people, like it is easier to explain that, you know, and they start to understand it. Do either of you do things to enlist those super fans into your cause more and give them
we'll do surveys and MRI studies and other qualitative measures to get their voices heard. oftentimes social media is such a great proxy for that we don't have to spend as much now because we can just do hashtag game shows or hashtag Baywatch, hashtag Jimmy Oliver, and then just see what the heat map of the sentiment is against that IP. So really does have a lot of work there.
Yeah. And same, I think kind of what we've been talking about. Again, getting them involved is end to end. That is how you're going to be successful. And it's really going to be interesting, again, because I don't know if we're talking about AI today. If we're going to get to it a little bit.
It's impossible to avoid. So, yeah.
That's fair.
Go for it.
That's fair. But yeah, utilizing AI, I think, is going to be one of the only ways, I think, where you can truly be effective in this gamification element with broadcast television. Which again, there's a conversation too, especially within my team and some of our partners is broadcast television gonna go away? Ever? It's like are the theaters ever gonna fully go away?
Right.
And that's what we need to constantly be asking ourselves and figuring out, because that's also what built our industry, so how can we continue to empower that? But anyway, not to stray too far away, but yeah, obviously empowering the user or the fans, this fandom that you've created is everything. And we do that also by doing like merch drops. We'll give them like, free stuff, giveaways. We'll fly them out to our studio. They can meet the talent. Sometimes we'll even take them to their hometown, like for a cast trip or something like that, and surprise them. So there's a lot of different ways to, engage them in more than just, be in my comment section.
Yeah, I think that's something I see being very scary to a lot of content creators, but when managed properly, has a big payoff where you directly interact with the fans that you can trust because you've been out in front of them. I've actually taken to putting a few people on my live stream, because they write in and they're like, hey, I just got the iPhone Air and I do tech news, right? Could I come on your Hangout, which is a very informal thing, and talk about it? And it's like, yeah, this guy, sure. I know him, I can trust him, I can cut him off at any time if it turned out great. So yeah. I think those sorts of things they seem like, well, I can't do that for everyone, but you don't have to, right?
No, yeah.
Well, we'll take like what people say on social and then really try to make it happen.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like for years, fans have clamored for Bob Barker when he stopped dyeing his hair. So we finally were able to work with the rights holders and CBS, and we've been able to air the episodes and seasons that people want. But with AI technology, we've been able to up-res it at scale at cheaper costs.
I thought you were going to say you had him dye his hair.
No, we've been we dyed his hair. No, it's Silver Fox Bob Barker. Yeah. So we've been able to leverage AI tech to bring catalog that wouldn't have been feasible from a cost perspective 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's a drop in the bucket for a surcharge to make it HD.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And there are things you can fulfill. That's a great example of like, it's a fan request that might have been too difficult in the past, but now you can make it. I asked at the top if anybody had questions to think of them and throw them out. I don't know if anyone's clamoring for questions, but we've got plenty to talk about here. If you have a question, though, please.
Yeah, I do have a question. I came in for the last panel, and then I saw the topic. I was like, this is what I need. I just got off an hour-long phone conversation with a group that I work with, specifically about this. So I'd love your feedback on this. My name is Michelle. I work for Cineverse. I work for Matchpoint, which is the technology group that powers Cineverse. So I get asked every day about certain types of content. So Tony Guido was on the panel right before talking about CineSearch and the microdrama that we're bringing to market. And I had a conversation today with a group of people about creator content. And I really want your opinion on this because we're being, folks are reaching out to us, creators, talent agencies are like, you're an innovative new studio, you do lots of different types of deliveries and distribution. The creator community sees value, in the TV community. So we're now flipping over. Now I know that you're talking mostly about, you've taken a lot of television content and repurposed it and put it back up there, which I think is fantastic. Fremantle, the same thing with older generation stuff, which I know a lot of younger generation is watching today. So we've got this whole other world and if you talked about it when I left, I apologize.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Hopefully you can answer my question. We've got this entirely new creator world. Everyone is just like, but the kids are watching, or the younger generation is watching mostly on a device, on a smaller screen. Yes, they're watching on a connected TV, but it's on YouTube. My question is, do you think it's viable, and is there a way that we can take that content and bring it to the traditional television world?
So the bridge from
Yeah.
the creator
Yeah.
world to the traditional
Yeah.
world.
And we had a whole conversation today about how to do it. It's not just lifting it up from here and bringing it over there
Sure.
by any means. I heard a lot of what you said about like redoing it, adding the Easter eggs, like making it a little bit more. What would you do? How would you bring it over in a productive way? Because what we're seeing right now is everyone's just like, I want to get to the TV, so they're taking what exists on YouTube and they're just slapping it on the television, which is not going to work
Yeah.
because you're not going to grab a new audience. So I'd love to hear your take on that, or if you've ever, I'm sure you've been thinking about it. So.
Yeah, you're making a
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've been working a lot with YouTube creators to bring their IP over for a connected TV or lean back experiences.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of points. One, great content, great stories should transcend any media,
I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Two, there are a lot of barriers from legacy TV and then YouTube, which barely has any barriers for time formats, for the way ads break, that moving over from a no proper segmentation POV to
Yeah.
a world that monetizes heavily on 12-minute segments,
Yep.
8-minute segments, that then goes back into creators don't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
And how do we put their creativity into a box that we've made 70 years ago?
Yeah.
So there's this like weird dynamic where we try to cherry pick the ones that fit that mold the best for TV, but then leave the heavy lifting for maybe a couple different other companies, or maybe when the time is right, when AI and ML is really good at identifying natural segment breaks to add a cue point or to add an ad break. But right now, like, there's so much work that is gonna stifle creators if they have to think about their new videos in
Yeah.
a 22-minute format or a 44-minute format with X amount of spaces in between.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because our technology does that. We're an automated media supply chain. We put ad breaks in. Everything's done through AI, ML, the whole thing. So we could do that. But even with that, I'm saying, who cares? Like, you're still just bringing something that's on this screen to from
Like you
this
said,
screen
you
to
can
this
watch
panel.
YouTube on the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
already,
can watch YouTube on the TV. So I keep, I both questioned it, but also
There's also
supported it because I think there's a way, but
There's also, like, for YouTube, it's more on demand unless you're going into a live stream. But for TV, the merits of it is there's someone curating, thinking they know what you will like
Right.
on a playlist that's time sensitive, which was in contrast to a prior panel that, like, that's like the downside, but that's also a pro, right? Like live events, like people tune in particularly for that. We've all experienced choice paralysis when we're scrolling through either YouTube or through Netflix, where there's 20 million rows you have to navigate. Why can't we just put something on? But when you had cable 10, 20 years ago, you just put whatever was on and then you just
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah.
So there's merits, right? And people consume content differently and behaviors are very different. So we kind of have to find a way where the content can live harmoniously between different consumption methods.
Yeah.
And we're trudging our way there. Like 3 years ago, none of that like
yeah.
natural ad break detection system is in place.
Sure.
But maybe 3 years from now, it'll be easy
Easier.
implementation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you hit I think that I mirror everything that you say. Did you ever see the show that Mr. Beast did on Amazon?
Yeah.
I think that's the best reference. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was for Amazon.
It was for Amazon.
Yeah.
And the way, and he made sure that he got his team in there, the way that it was edited and
Yeah.
cut. If you're familiar with Mr. Beast, he's a very famous YouTube star who has now become an executive producer on some things and a host. And he created a show that still had that element of that YouTube fast, I would say in your face style cut.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it drew a young audience. And I don't even look at the ratings, but I would assume that it probably performed really well just knowing who he is.
Oh, sure. He just brought the
he's
audience
massive.
with him.
Right, brought the whole audience with him. And so I think that is absolutely where the audience is going.
Right.
I mirror what you're saying too, Kyle, though, where creating a world where they can be harmonious, where they can intersect and live on multiple platforms. My only question would be, why would we want it? Right? It's like, should we keep them segregated in their own verticals so that it makes things clean and makes things understood? Or are we oversaturating things that maybe we enjoy watching and then you enjoy watching? Like, is it too much? That would be my question to the move. But I think you would probably actually be able to speak on that a little bit more, knowing that's your company.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were just approached. It wasn't our idea. We got, it was like people that came to us and said, hey, we want to talk to you. We've got a 200 person group that oversees the content creators. It's called the talent agencies. And we're like, okay, well, how can we help you? It was pretty much that. I was like, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, they're looking for a way to kind of get to other outlets.
I wonder if it's similar to adapting a book into a movie. You're taking content and you're saying we're putting it in a different format.
Well, and there's like for us, like we own our own technology now because we built our own technology, and so we have our own paywall. That's where I think I would take it. Is and I don't know what the plan kind of would be, but creating their own fast channel and then sourcing that fast channel across like a Pluto TV, a Roku, and all these other places would make sense if their audience converts. Is the thing. Here's the biggest thing. What is your name?
Michelle.
Michelle. That's my mom's middle name.
No way.
It is.
One L or two?
Say it again.
One L or two?
Two L's.
Okay.
Yeah. Melanie Michelle. But anyway, the reason why I share that is because I do feel like it's all about conversion, number one.
Yeah.
And I also feel like that people sometimes will force feed certain viewing trends down people's throats that are a part of different demographics that prefer different types and styles of viewing methods. And I think we just have to be very clear and concise when we are talking to our user. What is it that they want to see instead of forcing it all, down their throat? So ultimately, I would say that, if it was me and I was, building some of these deals, it's all about, hey, have you guys been open to a fast channel? And what is the audience? Because they're so used to free content, now they might have to pay for the content. And that conversion, I'm telling you right now, millions and millions of followers and captive audiences that we have revived and that we have built, they just don't always convert.
It's funny you say that because it was sort of this moment where they sort of put on us the deals that they were used to in kind of that world. And we're like, well, that's not a deal you're going to get here, and let me tell you why. And more important, it was sort of like, what can you do for us? And I was like, well, what can you do for us?
Right.
Because you've done this specific, call it, breakups, 6 minutes, whatever. We're now different audience, different outlet, different, everything's different. So what does this look like to you? And it was almost as if everyone was at the stopgap. I was like, I can tell you what I need, I can tell you, and I'm also going to tell you what I can give you. It's not going to be what you saw there, but I can give you more. I can give you more reach.
Well, and I'll leave you with this. If you're talking about creators like a Darman, if you know who Darman is, then he could fit in his own space. But if you're talking about like a Sam and Colby, who is like a paranormal investigator group, like that's gonna, lean in a different way.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's more vlog style. It's more like it's more like, what is that famous horror movie, you guys, where they go and
Blair Witch.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very much that, but it's done like literally weekly in the way that they do it. So I think it depends on the creator, to be quite honest with you. And the reason why I mentioned the Mr. Beast thing, and I know that you're probably going to want to move on, but the reason I mentioned the Mr. Beast thing is because that's the perfect example of a creator that's got a captive audience. He went to an actual studio, they did a deal, and they still had the authenticity of what his programming was, but then they put it in a way that felt like my mom could watch it.
Right, it was exclusive to that audience, and it was exclusive to that platform.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we said. We're like, sure, we can work with you, but here's what we're gonna need. It's almost like you're out in California, we're in New York. That's what it is. So it's a very, very different audience.
Yeah, we need faster planes.
I think Tom had a great analogy about book adaptations. Like not every book's going to be a great film.
Right.
Yep.
So all dependent on the content, the stories, and the creators
Yeah.
to find that audience and where they are, wherever they could be.
Well, that's our time. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the last panel on the last day. You're very special people. Give yourselves a round of applause.